Last question has to deal with more recent archaeological discoveries that you don't necessarily cover in the book, but are still pertinent and are certainly addressed in some way by your book. Recent discoveries pertinent to the history of Christianity have once again grabbed major headlines. Specifically, ossuaries in a previously unexamined tomb in Jerusalem were purported to show evidence of early Christian iconography, and therefore very early evidence of Christian belief in the resurrection. What is the consensus, if any, that is developing among archaeologists about these recent discoveries, and how do you feel about it as an expert on archaeology? How do you feel about it individually?
Well, I can tell you right now, there's nothing to this new theory. What it all boils down to is that in this tomb, which is about 45 meters away from another tomb in a place called Talpiot, South Jerusalem. The well-known East Talpiot tomb was much talked about 5 years ago, where supposedly trace remains of Jesus, supposedly his wife Mary Magdalene, supposedly their son Judah, and so on. A theory that is utterly without foundation, and I'm not aware of any serious archaeologist or biblical scholar or historian that takes it seriously. Well, this tomb, which is 45 meters away, has two ossuaries. One of them has an interesting design on it, and the other one has an interesting Greek inscription. The design is described by the proponent. There are two people who propose this view. I'm not sure if anyone else agrees with them, and that it's supposedly a fish that is vomiting out the prophet Jonah. And so what you have is a fish-like, scale-like looking image with a circle at the end of it, what looks like its mouth, and this is supposedly the head of Jonah coming out of the fish's mouth. Well, right away, that's entirely erroneous. This object that's inscribed, and it's not in a horizontal swimming sort of position. It is, in fact, vertical. What it is, it's called a nephesh. It's like a pillar. It represents the soul or the life of the deceased, and that's what nephesh means in Hebrew, is soul or life. And so this ossuary doesn't say a thing about Jonah and the whale. And so that's just not out of the gate. I mean, that theory doesn't go anywhere. The reason it's proposed is that supposedly this is depicting Jonah being vomited out, and this has to do with Jesus, who in his teaching compared himself to the prophet Jonah, who, just as Jonah was in the belly of the great fish for 3 days and 3 nights, so Jesus, as the Son of Man, will be in the tomb, in the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. So supposedly, you see, this then is Christian iconography. This is a Christian symbol of Jesus as Jonah being coughed up out of the earth in his resurrection, which leads us to the second ossuary in this tomb, and it has 4 lines, and they read rather easily in Greek. The only thing difficult is the name of the person. We're not sure how to pronounce it, but it's Hagev or something like that. Hagev, I Hagev, exalt the Lord God. That's all it says. I Hagev, exalt or lift up the Lord God. And so it's then interpreted in this new theory as having to do with confessing Jesus. Jesus has been lifted up. Maybe he's been raised up. And so this is then linked with this supposed Jonah coming out of the fish's mouth image. Well, that's it. That's what the entire theory rests upon. I'm not aware of any archaeologist with competence in this field that agrees with it. Several leading archaeologists have spoken out against the theory. I'm against it, simply not because it would be wrong, not because there's anything strange about having a Jewish Christian tomb somewhere in or around Jerusalem. There were plenty of Jewish Christians in and around Jerusalem in the first century, and I have no doubt many are buried, and some perhaps could be found in ossuaries today. So in theory, that's a possibility. But this particular tomb with these 2 ossuaries don't point toward Jesus and Christianity at all. And so the proposed interpretations, I think, are completely without merit and have not convinced any archaeologist, Christian or Jewish. I think it's just dead in the water. It's just one more silly theory, which of course the media will play up, but scholars know it for what it is. It is simply bogus research.
Wow. Well, thanks for that candid answer on that. I appreciate Craig Evans joining us today. Craig, is there anything that you would like to add to the interview before we sign off?
Well, I want to be sure that popular readers and people listening to this interview, I don't want them to be put off by archaeology. That's what that happened with the Dead Sea Scrolls too, because of outlandish claims that were going on 20 years ago. And I would go and I'd speak somewhere, and sometimes a well-meaning Christian would say, well, I don't understand why you're even interested in the scrolls. And I found that so strange, and I'd say, well, what do you mean? And they'd say, well, every time I hear about the Dead Sea Scrolls, it's something that, it's about some secret that the church has been keeping. There's something embarrassing. And, of course, that was all a lot of hokum. And my fear is that in these outlandish claims involving archaeology, it'll have the same negative effect. And people will think, well, there's something wrong with archaeology. It's if you get into archaeology, you're getting into wacky theories or something like that. And that's my hope, that does not happen.
Yeah.
My hope is that readers of the book, hearers of this interview, will realize that archaeology is done properly is a good thing.
Right.
And Christians of all people, Christians have nothing to fear from archaeology because it sheds light on Jesus and his world. It sheds light on the New Testament. Archaeology is a good thing. It needs to be pursued. Its results and discoveries need to be examined and appreciated, and there's nothing to fear.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's true. It's very true. And thank you for writing a book that addresses that issue and can help, Christians who, history lies at the very heart of our faith, and to be able to adjudicate these findings and this information responsibly, I think is a top priority for us.
Well, thank you, Matthew, and I'm glad to have been interviewed.
Excellent.
I enjoyed it very much.
Well, thank you for your time. And again, the book is called Jesus and His World, The Archaeological Evidence. It is out and available and very readable, very friendly, great for groups. Will probably stir up a lot of conversation in churches. So, Craig, thanks again, and best of luck with all of the book and all of your future endeavors.
Thank you very much, and
Thanks.
You're most welcome.